Happy Friday, guys. Welcome to a live Kerfefe break with Keri on Deprogrammed. It's a lazy Friday for me, a bit of a lazy Friday. We're going to have a little fun getting back into the regular schedule of videos after coming back from Orlando and also shooting a part of a music video with my husband. If it's your first time here, Deprogrammed is a channel where in a lot of ways, we break down woke ideology, social justice ideology, my old belief system of 20 years, and usually have interviews on Thursdays. Mondays and Fridays, we do this live show where we just kind of hang out and talk about the world, boost each other's spirits, have a bit of fun, sometimes get upset and then get over it and make up. So that's what we do on Mondays and Fridays. If you want to support the show, if you're a regular viewer and you enjoy the content, we also have Wednesday night shows. I forgot to say live Wednesday night pop culture with Mystery Chris. If you want to support the show, we have a Patreon, we have a locals, we have a subscribe star, and I'm sure there's other ways. We also have YouTube memberships. So that's all of the announcements. I'm practicing doing another one without a guest the whole time, guys. This is good practice for me. You should know it's much easier for me to have conversations with people, and being just the talking head on a video makes me really uncomfortable, but I'm getting over that by doing it more. So this is another unplugged. We'll see what happens. Yeah, solo Keri. Keri, you need bigger earrings. I just bought these just this morning from my friend Rachel, who runs one of the best coffee shops in this side of Texas, coffee shop slash antique slash ladies things accoutrement shops, and it's in Granger, Texas. And yeah, I got these big earrings. She was having a 50% off sale, and I was like, okay, I got to take these cowboys home with me. But welcome. A couple of things. My husband has a show tomorrow night in Fort Worth. If you're in the Dallas or Fort Worth area, he's going to be at the Ridgely Theater. And here, I'll put the link in the chat. If you're at all nearby and you want to come out, tickets are just $15. I'll be there. Mr. Latigra will be there. And I hope to see you. If you do come, don't be afraid to come say hi. And I hope you enjoy it. And it's at 8:00 at the Ridgely Theater in Fort Worth. Speaking of my husband, this just happened. Oh, it's the Ridgely Theater, Thomas. Ridgely, Ridglea. Speaking of my husband, so last night we had to postpone Popped Culture, Mr. Chris and I, to Thursday night because I was shooting some music video stuff on Wednesday with my husband. So last night we did a Pop Culture, and we showed one of my husband's music videos, the one that just came out this past month. And we were joking like we always do, because my husband does the intro music for both of our shows here at Deprogrammed. And I've showed his music before, and we were joking like, yeah, this is one bit of music we can do without a copyright strike because it's my husband and this will be fine. So woke up this morning, copyright claim, and he didn't do it though. I was like, did you copyright claim my video? No, I'm kidding. I knew he didn't do it. Copyright claim on the video. And here's the interesting thing that YouTube says. Let me just open this so I get it right. YouTube says that they found copyrighted material in the video, and they name him. It's the song Santa Rosa by Anthony Garcia. And they say that it cannot be monetized, and any ad revenue will be paid to the copyright holder. And that's really strange because his channel is not monetized on YouTube yet. His channel, you have to hit 1,000 subscribers before you can monetize. And so we're just curious, what does YouTube do with that money when they do a copyright strike on someone else's behalf? Did they just take any money? It's weird. Yeah, it is creepy, Amy. Give it up for Amy, Two Sisters and Some Yarn, modding in the chat today. Thank you, lady. Yeah, control your man. Yeah, so I think YouTube just takes that money. I posted about it because I'm curious of what they say. Like, where does it go? We noticed sometimes they put ads on his more popular videos. Like he has a live recording of Devil in My Heart, and they put ads on that video because I think that one for his channel, less than 1,000 subscribers. He has like 370 something subscribers. And so that video has a lot of views. The ratio of views to subscriber base, he has over 4,000 views on that video. So they put ads on it, and they make all the YouTube takes all that money because he can't until he hits 1,000. It's crazy. So I bet you they just go around copyright striking, and then they're like, let me take any of that ad revenue. It's weird. Anyway, Norman, it was great to meet you at Geeks and Gamers in Orlando. Norman, thank you so much. It was great to meet you guys. I had so much fun there. I kind of recapped it last night with Mystery Chris on pop culture, but I'll just say again, if you guys get a chance to go to one of these live in-person meetups for your favorite like shows or fellowship or what have you, Geeks and Gamers, Nerdrotic, Friday Night Tights, going out to Chrissy Mayer's show, the Comedians of the Compound. It's so much fun to meet people in real life and have that sense of just camaraderie, and for anyone that feels like they're alone or isolated where they're at and that they have too much wrong think, I'm just telling you, it does a lot for your soul to go and meet people in real life and be like, I'm not the only one. So it was really nice to meet you guys. I had a lot of fun there. Okay. Speaking of Orlando, there's one thing I forgot, because so much happened since I left to go there for Chrissy Mayer's Content House and Geeks and Gamers meetup and the Nerdrotic meetup. I forgot to share this story. I did kind of write something about it online because I was thinking about it. It was so cool. But I'll just tell you guys, on the flight there, I had a great flight. And that you don't often hear that, right? It's like, how's your flight? Usually there's some things to complain about. But I had a great flight on the way there. And this is a white pill story. So let me just tell you this. It was one of those 3-seaters. I was in the window. And the guy in the middle, he started talking to me. He was very friendly. And sometimes, you're on a plane, you're like, I just want to sleep. But if somebody's friendly, I'm not going to be rude to them. So I'm talking to him. And he starts asking me about what I do. And sometimes I don't even mention the podcast. But if I do mention it, and I'll just say, Deprogrammed, it's a show about culture and philosophy, ideology kind of stuff. And I'll just kind of leave it at that unless they ask more questions, and then kind of fill them out. And he did ask more questions. He was very friendly. So he said, what kind of ideology? What do you talk about? So I started explaining, I was in woke ideology for 20 years. We do a lot of interviews with people about what woke ideology is, how it spreads, where can you find its roots? How does it affect culture, academia, politics, stuff like that. And this guy, he's from India, and he had only lived in Texas for a couple years, and he works in tech, and he didn't know what woke was. First of all, this was interesting. He lives in Austin, which is one of the wokest places now. And he said, what's woke? Is it like awakening? And he pulled out this book he was reading on mindfulness, with awakening in the title. And he showed me the book. He said, is it like awakening? And I said, no, it's the opposite. It's the opposite of awakening. It's a belief system that is very closed off and has the answers to everything, and does not encourage truth seeking or open-mindedness or inquiry or curiosity. It's very cult-like. And so as I'm defining woke for him, and I'm like, I do this shorthand definition of, it's based in Marxism, but instead of being about class and wealth, it is about identity group and power. So it's like Marxism, which said, the world is best viewed as a competition for wealth among class groups, and we need to redistribute the wealth among class groups, and then we'll have equality. And this kind of Marxism, it's mutated, and instead of being about wealth and class, it says, no, the world is best viewed as a competition between identity groups for power, and we have to redistribute the power among these identity groups, and then we'll be equal. And so, it necessarily teaches us we have to treat people differently based on which identity groups they're in. It's a racist, collectivist belief system. So I was explaining this, and as I was talking to him, the woman in the aisle seat, this older white woman, she kept leaning over and like looking at me. I could feel her eyes on me. And I was thinking, you're leaving Austin on a flight to Orlando. It's probably a lot of woke. I've had experience with a lot of woke people on these flights from Austin. So I waited a bit, and then I finally looked back at her, and then she winked at me, but I couldn't tell, was it a wink of solidarity or a wink of sarcasm? Like, I see you, you anti-woke bigot, I couldn't tell what kind of wink it was. So I just asked her, I just point blank, and I leaned across him and I was like, "Oh, are you enjoying our conversation or are you hating it? Because I can talk more quietly if you hate it." And kind of smiled, let her to disarm anything if she was woke. And she said, "No, I'm loving it." And she started talking to me. Turns out this woman is a based psychologist and also based in Florida, and she's reality based. And she starts throwing out all this stuff. She's like, "Have you heard of mass formation psychosis?" I'm like, "Yes." She's like, "I've been doing all this work with, um, around this subject, and it all traces back to a lot of it to childhood trauma." And I'm like, "Yes, yes, yes." And she says a lot of it's related to personality disorders and the way that people cope with trauma in childhood. And I'm like, "Yes, yes." And she's talking about Jordan Peterson, and she pulls out her laptop and starts showing me some of the documents that she uses, where she's kind of defined what woke is and how this stuff expresses, and the difference. She had documents, and like the headline is "The Difference Between Woke and Awakening," which is something I talk about. And it was just amazing that this woman is sitting on the flight with me. And I don't know, I thought that was a great white pill moment. And the point of it, Ken says, "I'm loving the story." Good. I'm hoping I'm going to have her on the show. I did get her contact info. She works with people who are woke. She is a therapist and psychologist. And she's wide awake. She's awakening, right? And she kept going back to that, like the difference between those two things. And this is why I think it's a good news story too, because sometimes we're afraid to share our opinions if other people might listen. The woke are never afraid to share their opinions. I know you've heard them. I hear them. I've been on flights where I've heard them before, behind the seat behind me, talking loudly, saying racist woke crap, belittling old white people, making fun of Republicans. They're not afraid to say what they think, even if, especially if others are listening, they'll say it. And they say it with an attitude of, what I am saying is normal and you should not be offended to hear it. They say it like that. And that's how we have to speak our opinions. So don't be, I mean, you might be afraid, but just push past the fear and say what you think anyway. And that's what this guy's asking me about woke. What does it mean? I could have chosen to be like, I don't want to talk about it, or like, or, steered it somewhere else. But why? Because I believe in what I'm saying. So, and you just say it matter of factly. And I also gave her, in case she was hating it, I gave her, now I kind of made fun of myself, like, "Oh, I can speak more quietly if it bothers you." I'm not going to force it on her. But yeah, an enlightening moment on your flight. I hope it's a good lesson. If you guys are ever afraid to say what you think about something when other people are around, don't worry. I know it can be dangerous to discuss ideas in public. That's why people are afraid. But maybe that'll encourage you to take that chance. And you don't have to take every chance. You don't have to take every opportunity. But maybe there's one where, if you're in a situation like that, you're sort of, okay, well, I'm just going to answer this guy's question. Um, Lori, you're so tight. It was, what is that? Is that what the kids say, Lori? Like, cool? Is that what that means? "It was great to meet screen people in person." Oh, right. You're so right. Got it. "It's great to meet screen people in person. I was nervous about going, but everyone was friendly, nice, and real. Thanks for being there." Yes, I love that. Everyone was real. It was just great meeting people. I just popped in, and that story made my day. Thanks. Awesome. Good. It made my day. I got off the flight thinking, what a great flight. The person from the content house who came to Chrissy Mayer's content house came to pick me up at the airport and said, "How's your flight?" Well, it was amazing, actually. It was pretty cool. It was pretty inspiring. Somebody was saying something about the Indian guy in the middle. The Indian guy was participating in the conversation too. He started talking about awakenings, and the three of us had this whole conversation about woke and, how different it was from an awakening. So the Front Porch Conservative. Ditto what Norman said, Keri, an absolute joy to meet. Blessings to you, Anthony and Tiger, and all things. By the way, what's I hear about you and cigars in Orlando? LOL. I have to say, I met this guy, the Front Porch Conservative, in person. His hat is even more lovely, and he actually, I was at a comedy club. It was the Improv. It was for Chrissy Mayer's show, The Comedians of Compound, and there were tons of people there, and I was sitting at a table with a couple friends, and the waiter came over and said, the waiter was embarrassed. He was this young guy, and he said, I'm sorry to do this, but this guy sent me over here to say that there's what did he say? That a beau and a chapeau would like to, was it buy me a drink or something? I can't remember. A sparkling water, a bow and a chapeau, and a man in a hat. So I got up, I was like looking around, and then I saw him. And I have to say, Front Porch Conservative in real life, he looks so dapper, like he stepped out of a 1930s or 1940s movie, just like the most amazing looking gentleman. So it was really nice to meet you. Okay. I have a special, I do have a special guest who's going to drop in a little bit. Probably in any minute now. Pirate Tomski, who's one of the mods here on the channel, and you may recognize from discords and chats and other channels as well. He is going to be joining me today just to talk about something special that's coming up. So get ready for that. He said, Front Porch Conservative. Stop it. You're going to embarrass me. That's okay. Okay, here, I want to show you guys this. I was trying to think about what to talk about on this Unplugged. And so I'm just going to talk about what's on my mind this morning. Have you guys been looking at the polls of what voters are concerned about in this election that's coming up on Tuesday? Because pretty much everyone I've seen, no matter who's doing the poll, at the very top, and this is true whether you're polling all Americans or white Americans or Black Americans or Latino American, it's true across the board that the number 1, 2, 3 issues all somehow relate to standard of living, economy, things like inflation. So then I've been seeing here. Well, let me just explain this meme to you. I made a meme. It says, "What are we voting on?" On the left, you have the voting public. Can you guys see that? Okay, yeah. And here are the results of one of those polls. Okay, this is from NBC. What is the biggest concern facing your family right now? And then you see the issues on the left and the percentage. So inflation in the number 1 spot at 33%, gas prices 15%, the economy in the number 3 spot at 9%, everyday bills, groceries, etc., coming in 4th at 6%. Okay, now way down here, abortion, reproductive rights, that's in 5th place at only 5%. It's a very measly 5%. Then you've got guns and gun ownership at a measly 3%. Healthcare costs, kind of shocked actually, that's so low, 3%. Job security, unemployment, 3%. So this is the list, and it varies a little depending on the poll and who they're talking to. And I did see a couple where some of these things were a bit higher, but in general, the things that voters say that they're most concerned about in this election have to do with inflation, the economy, providing for their family, the price of groceries, the price of gas, things like that. Okay, now on the right here, this is a get out the vote messaging, like a bit of propaganda. Now, I mean, it's a bit of advertising, marketing to try to get Democrats out to vote. This is something that Hillary Clinton shared on her Twitter. And so here on the right, you can see the list. And I keep seeing things like this. It's not just this image. I see this constantly from the Democrats. Beto, who's running here in Texas against Governor Greg Abbott, he tweeted the other day, he said, this election is about abortion, right? Okay, I don't think the majority of voters, if you look at the polls, that's what they think this election is about. But here we go. This is what the Democrats are saying. And they say this is on the ballot, okay? Abortion access, voting rights, immigration reform, gun reform, right to marry, what? Climate change, racial justice are on the ballot. Make a plan to vote. Do you see on their list of important issues that they think people are voting on or that they think we should be voting on? That's really what this is about, is they're telling you what you should care about. They don't have the economy on here. They don't have inflation, the number one issue that people say they're voting on. They don't have inflation on here. Gas prices, nowhere to be seen. Bills, grocery bills, the economy, job security, nothing. This election for them is about all these social justice things. Look at this climate change, racial justice. Okay, I've got to show you this, considering that they have racial justice on here, which didn't even make the list here on the left of the top things voters care about. I want to show you this. This is a poll of Black Americans, Black voters. Okay. And these are the things they're concerned about. Let me see if I can bring this up. Okay. Can you guys see that? So this is another poll now. This is just of Black voters. And we've got here, oh, hold on. Let me mark this before I miss it. Okay. Black adults name violence, economic issues, and housing as top 3 issues in their communities. Okay, this is the percentage of Black adults who say that blank is the most important issue facing the community they live in. Number 1 at 17%. Okay, violence, crime. Number 2, economic issues, 11%. Number 3, housing. Number 4 at 6%, the COOF and public health. Number 5 at 5%, infrastructure. Number 6 at 4%, neighbors. Neighbors is the top issue for 4% of Black adults. It's the most important issue, neighbors. Okay, here we go. The very next one is no issues. No issues. That's it. That's tied with neighbors. Below that, we have public safety and emergency services at 3%. Look way down here. Now, remember, the Democrats on all of their messaging about the election, they're like, we are voting on racial justice. Way down here, below neighbors, below neighbors and below no issues at all, we've got 3% of Black Americans saying that racism, diversity, and culture is the most important issue in their community. 3%. 3%. More people, more Black Americans say that neighbors are the most important issue facing their community than racism. But the messaging for the Democrats is racial justice. Okay, and then down here, number 3, employment and wages. But yeah, economic issues, violence and crime. You don't see that on there. You don't see that on the voting messaging. I guess I'll ask you guys, what do you think that means? I'm not huge into politics, and I don't like to make predictions because I guess I'm sometimes always wrong. And no idea. I didn't think Trump would win, and I didn't think Biden would win. So I don't really know what's going to happen. But it makes me think that they're basically, as out of touch as you could be. And so I know some people who are more into politics than I am keep talking about a red wave, and I wonder what you guys think about that, if that's what's going to happen. Oh, okay. We've got a guest. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Can you hear me okay? It's been a while since I've been in StreamYard.
I can hear fine. Can you guys hear Pirate? Welcome, Pirate Tomski.
Thank you very much.
Bring on the pirate. So, Pirate Tomsky, if you don't know him, is a man about town. He is on a lot of different channel discords, very helpful in the community of content creators on YouTube. And he is a mod here at Deprogrammed and a great human being with a beautiful singing voice.
Well, I'm not going to be singing today. But helpful in communities, that's questionable, I think.
I think you're very. You bought Mike Harlow a microphone.
Oh, I did, yeah, because I was sick of the echo every time he was on your show,
Yeah.
and then he still hasn't set it up properly.
What? You're very generous. You're very kind. You have something before we talk about what this new fun thing you're going to tell us about.
Mm.
I'm going to put this up on the. Thank you so much, Pops, for the super chat. $20 says I missed you in Orlando. Mrs. Pops and I were in AM session. Thank you for the morning session. I was there too, but I missed you. So there were a lot of people there. Thank you for your part and inspiring me to move away from politics and find my voice in the pop culture war, doing YouTube content, praying for you to stay strong and talk hard. That is awesome. Pops, we have to check out your channel. I'll make a note. That's awesome. I wish I had met you, but I'll meet you at the next one. So there we go.
So I've got a question for you, Keri, actually,
Yes.
before we jump into the other thing. A couple of comments, really. So first of all, what was your favorite part of the trip that you took?
Well, I loved the flight, which I just told everyone about. That was great. But my favorite part was actually it was the Geeks and Gamers and Neurotic meetup on Sunday before I left. Because you get to meet so many people. It's going to cheese some people out, but it's souls touching souls. It's
Yeah.
I know some people are like, "Oh, shut up." It's true though. Like it is so cool. I can't talk it up enough of just having that moment. And you don't have a lot of time because there's a lot of people to talk to, but each of those conversations of just connecting with people, finding out where they're from, noticing all the diversity in the room, like the actual diversity that matters, and
Yeah.
racial diversity as well, and sexuality, and all the things that the woke claim to care about, but diversity in terms of opinions and interests and character and vibe, and just there's all these different people. Some people came from as far away as Tokyo and New Zealand to be there, and everyone's got something like interesting going on, or some interesting take, or some story that they want to share with you about getting like excommunicated from the woke left, like leaving it like I did. That's the best, when you meet people who've walked away as well.
Yeah.
Or people who were never in it and are just welcoming and like glad to have you on board. That kind of, I love that. I hate the arrogant people who are like, it's too late to come to my party, I'm shutting the doors. like like what, everyone's always welcome at my party. You can get here late, it's fine. Latecomers are welcome. Like, you should want more people. If you have a point of view that you want others to share, it makes no sense at all for you to be a butthole to them when they finally come around to your point of view. And there's too many people who are like that. Even some friends I used to work with. Like, just, you need to be open to new people waking up. And so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. You know what always amazes me after these meetups is how Gary from Nerdrotic always seems to remember everybody.
Mhm.
So I was watching his Nooner the other day, and there were all these super chats coming in saying, "Oh, hey Gary, I met you on at the weekend, etc., etc." And he was like responding like, "Oh yeah, you're the guy with that hat, or you're the guy who wanted to talk about this." Or
Yes.
his memory is just as an ex junkie, his memory is fantastic.
It's great. Yeah. And he really takes time with people, you can tell. Like,
Yeah.
by the time I talk to him, you can tell he's tired, exhausted. It's been all weekend, but he's still like, he is there to connect with people, and he's really authentic, and I just love that. I love it. I can't compliment him enough. I'm like, the community that you guys are building, he hates that word. The fellowship that you guys are building is just incredible, and it's building something beautiful. So I love that.
Yeah, it's great. It's good.
Yeah.
I can't wait until they come to the UK.
I heard some rumblings about that possibility.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't remember. I think he talked about it on the Nooner as well. About
He did?
they're going to do London, but they're also going to do some other places because Az lives quite near me. Az is within, like, I don't know, maybe 100 miles from where I live. So I would imagine that they want to do one near him.
Yes,
So
probably.
I'll probably go along to that one. So yeah, I did see some of the Content House. This is just a funny side story. I saw you on some of the Content House. I only watched about maybe 20 minutes of it. but it just happened to be the point where you were sat in like the editor's chair,
Oh,
where you
okay.
were, and within 2 minutes, the stream was muted.
Hey, in my defense, that might have been the part. Okay, there was one part where they put me in the. There were 2 times that I was in the editor's chair, and one of those times there was a lot of debate in the background between the compound media guys, the guys that were usually in the tech chair, about which, because there were 2 things going on at once. There were some people, Mike Harlow and Gino Bisconti and Keanu were cooking in the kitchen, and then there were people on the couch, Alex Stein and a few other people on the couch, and I put the people on the couch front and center and put their mic on and muted the kitchen, because it's like, people want to hear the conversation, and watching the kitchen, like, you can check on them once in a while, and it's like fun cooking in the background. But somebody overrode me and then pushed the couch to the back and muted them and brought the kitchen up front. So there was like this war of what goes front going on. I didn't even know that was happening at first. And then I was told several different in my defense. And that's why I got up from the chair. Cause I'm like, I'm not in the middle of this. You guys decide what goes on.
Yeah, I was laughing away. It was like you've literally just sat down and then the stream mutes.
Mute.
Like Uber.
Fail.
So yeah, and to people in the chat, yes, it's North Yorkshire where I'm from.
North Yorkshire. I love the way you
North
talk.
Yorkshire.
I like the way you talk, Pirate.
Although I'm near West Yorkshire as well, so I'm kind of on the border. So people can probably figure out. That's as detailed as I'm going to get.
Here, look at this. That's the name of this YouTuber.
There you go. Cleared it up.
Having a sweepstakes on where the UK Pirates accent is from. Please clear this up, which you just did.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'm watching the chat as well. As a moderator, you can't stop watching the chat.
Yeah, you do a much better job of it than I do. I sometimes miss things. Okay, so as a moderator, what's this big news that you have for us?
So, I mean, I don't know how big news it's going to be, but I am starting a new podcast called Modcast, where I'm going to go around and hopefully interview different moderators from different channels, and just basically try and understand, well, first, who are the moderators for? Why are the moderators? Who's the most annoying person in the chat? Those types of questions. No, I'm just joking.
Wow.
So I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know how much content it's going to create. I think it will very much depend on the people who we get on and how much people want to do it, and how how good the first couple of interviews are going to go. So we'll see. But I've already got a couple of people lined up. I'm just trying to figure out schedules. So there'll be at least 1, if not 2, interviews, and we'll see where we go from there. Yeah.
Mods gone wild.
I was thinking maybe calling it Mongcast instead of Modcast, but
why?
That's different. Oh, a Mong is like an idiot in the UK.
Oh yeah, don't do that. We won't get that here. I like Modcast because it's a funny rhyme with podcast. And for Modcast, you should have, like, I'll be your moderator.
Oh my god.
Shut up.
Yeah, we can have different mods in, and so yeah. So that's the news really. I'm still working out the format. I've got a couple of I've created a channel, so if people want to go and sub over, there's no content there yet, but there will be. The plan is to do the first interview next Tuesday.
Okay.
So it'll be up. The first one will be up next week, hopefully. If we don't have to move schedules around, we've already had to move a couple of times. So yeah, but I thought it was one of these things. Yeah, Modception. Someone's put in the chat. I think that's absolutely spot on. Looking to do something. I don't know. I don't know how interesting it's going to be, but we'll see. So that was all I wanted to plug.
As long as you're having fun, I think it's going to be interesting. So I'll be there.
Yeah. Well, I do wonder what some of the content creators are going to think about it. So I was thinking about this today. Bringing mods on. Obviously, mods see stuff that goes on in the back of the channel of these channels. So I think we're going to have to set some kind of ground rules about what we can and can't talk about, because we don't want to piss off content creators. So I don't want to bring a mod on to get them to start giving me the inside baseball of a channel. That's not kind of the direction of the of the podcast. I don't want them to say
No,
anything
that's
that's
just
going
like
to upset
a
anybody.
gossipy, backbiting kind of thing. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, but so I think I've got some interesting questions lined up, which we'll save for the first conversation and
I mean, I
go
just
from
think
there.
it's interesting. One of the first things you told me about it, which is that finding out what motivates people to help, because as you know, a lot of mod positions are unpaid volunteer positions in the hopes of helping to grow to something bigger. And people do it because well, you'll have to tell me. We'll wait for Modcast. You tell me
Yeah,
why people
exactly.
do it. Yeah.
So we'll see, but yeah, so it should be interesting, and I think some mods, yeah,
Spare the mods, spoil the podcast.
two sisters and some yarn. I get paid, but you don't. Kerry and I've got
Christmas
an
is coming
arrangement on
up.
the side.
Christmas is coming up. Did I mention we have a locals and a Patreon and whatever we have? The mods know.
Yeah. So that was it. So yeah.
This is very interesting. Look at this. Dion says I was a mod on IRC in the 90s when it really was the Wild West.
I kind of remember those days. I came in at the end of the 90s really on the internet, so I'm a little bit younger than I don't remember the early 90s chat really.
Yeah. Were you in AOL? Were you ever on AOL Messenger, the chat, that kind of thing? AOL chat rooms? Do you remember AOL chat rooms?
I do. What was it was more like I used MSN Messenger a lot, but obviously that was kind of one-to-one with friends, people you knew. I did have friends back then, chat. It was like the Yahoo message boards that I kind of used to go on. You know, where you went in, the first thing everybody said was, "Well, ASL." There was just this flood of ASL for age, sex, location to give, and then it was just back then. People just said the craziest things online, and I think that's how chat should be, really.
Yeah. I just want to clarify with your accent, you say, instead of saying Yahoo, you say Yahoo?
Yahoo, yeah.
Yahoo?
Whichever.
I love it.
The shitty leftist news organization now.
All right. Hey, so is that all you want to talk about, or you want to stick around while I bring up this next thing?
I can stick around for a little bit.
Okay, you just tell me when you have to go.
I will.
I don't know if you've seen this yet, so I'm going to bring this up. We can play it for you. It might be the first time you're seeing it. Maybe not. And then we'll play it for everyone. Hold on. I kind of appreciate the fact that I've aged out of knowing who the women are for the most part on daytime talk TV. So I don't know who this person is that we're about to watch, but I know she's a racist. Okay.
You mean somebody? Let me guess. It's a liberal woke white woman. Hey, there we go.
Hey. Well, actually, no. I think the woman we're about to hear from is not white, but anyway, we'll see. Her name is Sunny Hostin. The View. She's on The View. I don't know who any of these women are on The View anymore. Okay, here we go.
Republicans, but what's also surprising to me is the abortion issue. I read a poll just yesterday that white Republican suburban women are now going to vote Republican.
Why?
It's almost like roaches voting for Raid, right?
I think that's
they're voting.
No, it's insulting to the voter.
They're voting against their own self-interest.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just had a couple thoughts about this. I mean, the most obvious of which is you would never, ever see the woke left use that phrase roaches voting for Raid for any other racial group, other than white people. They would never say that about, and here's a great example. There's been a whole spate of hysterical articles here in the US in the past couple of weeks, a couple of months actually. If you go and look for some key terms, and you'll find all these articles about how Latinos are the percentage of Latinos voting for Republicans is increasing very steadily. And there's like a ton of headlines sort of lamenting that Democrats are losing Latinos. I cannot imagine this woman sitting there, Sunny Hostin, sitting there and saying, yeah, I just read in a poll that there's a lot more, there's an increasing number of Latinos now voting Republican. It's like roaches voting for raid. Could you imagine? It's the double standard.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is part of the problem. There's two things here, really. Is number one, it is this racism against white people is fine. You know, that's been normalized in society. In the West, at least. But second of all, it's because they've not been held accountable for any of this stuff for so long. So they feel like they can say anything they want to say.
Yeah.
And there'll be no pushback or anything like that against them. They won't be held accountable for any of this stuff.
No. The leftist media and the leftist audience they're talking to here at somebody in the chat calling the spew, the spew, they're never going to say, hey, that's uncalled for. You shouldn't call white people roaches.
Well, I mean, I'm surprised I didn't say you can't call women roaches. I mean, you can call men roaches.
Women are the new men.
Well, I don't want to get you demonetized with my thoughts on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually it's somebody and I want to make this caveat because when I shared this, I was saying something about it, and a couple people in the comments said, it's just an analogy. If you could also say they're like turkeys voting for Christmas, meaning they're voting against their own self-interest. It's an analogy that means they're voting against their self-interest. Yes, I agree. My issue is with the double standard. The double standard is what's racist, because they would not treat it like, well, it's just an analogy if it were said about Latinos or Asians or Black people. No, they want us to live in a world where we walk on eggshells about about every racial group except for white people. And then in the case of white people, not only do they say no need to walk on eggshells, it's just an analogy. Not only do they say that, they also are like sometimes like vigorously stomp on the eggs just to prove a point, like we're going to talk shit about white people and it's fine. And that double standard is what I hate. I wish that we didn't walk on eggshells for any racial group, that you could make that analogy about anyone and they would never freak out and play hysteria and like, oh my gosh, you said something racist. But that's not the case. They would flip the F out if somebody said this, especially if someone on the right or in the center or whatever made this same analogy but used a different racial group, they would flip out.
I do think there is something in the language around roaches, though. When you talk about, it's like a turkey voting for Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever the saying was, is that is not quite as distasteful as exterminating roaches with raid. There is something in the subconscious around that, as in turkeys are like innocent creatures who don't know what's going on, and so voting for Christmas, they don't understand it. Whereas roaches is very kind of, there is a historical kind of context of people referring to groups they don't like as roaches. So it does feel a little bit more hostile.
Yes, there is that historical, and anyone who's familiar with the genocide in Rwanda, the Hutu called the Tutsi roaches. They called them cockroaches. It was very reminiscent of the kind of language that Hitler used. I mean...
I mean, any tyrant that wants to exterminate another race or persecute another race uses language like this.
Yes. And the double standard again about it is what really is just so annoying, so hypocritical. If you go on Twitter, one of the most popular phrases that social justice racists use about white people, it's a funny phrase. I'm not saying it should be banned. I'm just saying it's a double standard. They of course use white people, and then they use snow roaches.
I've never heard of that before.
Look it up.
Is that even a thing?
That's what they try to make it a thing. Go on Twitter and look for snow roaches. You'll find a ton of crap.
I'll have to do that in an private browser, I think.
Right.
But somebody put in there, that Adam put in the chat, vermin. That's what it is. It's dehumanizing. Roaches are seen as vermin. They're something that you want to extinguish and get rid of.
Yes.
Whereas, the turkey analogy is, turkeys are seen, like lovable creatures, and nobody wants to exterminate turkeys,
You're right.
but they do want to exterminate roaches. So there is something very negative about that language. But you're right. Back to your original point.
Yeah.
Say it about any other racial group, any other racial group in the West, and they would be hopping mad about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the example I was thinking of. I just want to show you this, Pirate. So we have this election coming up, and I always like to see what they're kind of the talking points that the echo chamber that the cathedral puts out. Like, what are all because they all do the same. Like, we predicted this and it came true that they all the papers now write about like white Christian nationalism. Like, that's become a huge phrase that they like to push that idea out there that there's some white Christian nationalist front or something. And so that's in all these, like, the biggest existential threat is white Christian nationalists. That's everywhere. One of the things that I've noticed that is currently everywhere, and I'll just share this with you, is here. Latinos increasingly voting for Republicans. And again, you would never see that Sunny Hostin lady saying, it's like roaches voting for Ray. But they have all of these headlines where they're kind of hysterical. They're talking in their echo chamber to the leftists, trying to console them and trying to, I guess, explain it away. And so one day ago, The Atlantic, why Democrats are losing Hispanic voters. USA Today, 2 days ago, Democrats shrinking hold on Latinos could hurt the purple state dream. This is CNN, the role race plays in Latinos voting. DeSantis, so popular with Latinos, he may turn Dem seats red. Here we go. Fox, Dems once believed Hispanics were key to future. Now they're leading the GOP to midterm victory. In Texas, this is the New York Times. In Texas, a battle for Hispanic voters moves to the cities. Tons.
They're freaking out. I've never understood this. I mean, and again, being an English guy, I've got a completely different view on this than you guys will, and I'll be wrong about lots of things. So I'll just caveat that there. But from what I've seen of US politics, the Democrats seem to think that they own these voters, and like they own the Hispanic vote. It's like no. And whereas it seems like maybe not just Republicans, but let's say non-Democrats try and win the voters over. So they try and run on issues that might win some different groups of people. They're trying to win people across rather than groups of people. Whereas Democrats think that they own these groups of people and then get frustrated when they don't vote for them. So I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what it seems like.
Yes, they feel like they own groups and they can't stand it when they start to lose a hold on those groups. And that woman on The View, Sunny Hostin, or whatever her name is, her comments about women, that shows you how far. So if a group that they feel like they own doesn't come out in full force for them, then they just denigrate, and they'll find any other reason to denigrate that group. And so what moniker do they put in front of women in order to feel comfortable demonizing them? White.
Yeah.
Oh, it's white women. They vote against their own self-interest. They vote for the patriarchy because they benefit from the patriarchy. Like all this. They vote for the patriarchy because they benefit from white supremacy. That's the kind of shit they say.
The way how they frame it tells you everything about how they look at things, in the sense of, so they wouldn't say, what was the language again? White housewives, or what was it? White liberal women, or whatever.
White Republican women. That's what's even funnier. If you look at her quote, she said, "I've just learned that white Republican women are planning to vote Republican." It's like, well, you just said they're Republican. It kind of makes sense.
Well, I think that might be in part that they didn't. Wasn't there something about them not voting that way for Trump?
Maybe. Or maybe she was a slip of the tongue.
Possibly, yeah, possibly. Yeah. But I don't, you wouldn't hear them say like Black Republican women, or Latino Republican women. Yeah, I get that, but I just don't. This is a different strategy, I think, in the way how like in American politics, from what I see, is Democrats think that they own votes, and if you go away from them, you're betraying them.
Yes.
They don't work on the kind of this is what I'll do for you.
Yes.
It's more of a, this is what you'll lose if you vote for the other guy. It's kind of a kind of a reverse kind of way of how politics should work, in a way where there should be people. You should approach like campaigns as kind of like blank slates, in a way, to say, I don't know how anyone's going to vote, so let's try and create policies where, you know, where we think we need to, you know, what are the problems in the state, etc. But they run on emotion, and they run on this old school kind of, we've always had this group of people, and they can't, it's like it doesn't compute in their brain when people don't vote the way they expect them to, because again, someone said in the chat, they just see groups and they think everyone thinks the same, and anybody who doesn't think that way there's something wrong with them, you know. That's how they view the world. Very strange.
Do you have the same phenomenon in the UK?
So in the UK, it's not so much. It's more about like kind of classes in the UK, around lower class, middle class, working class, that kind of thing. So there is, although I mean, that historically, I would say recently, I can't tell the difference between any of the political parties. You know, the Conservatives just seem, who are in power right now, just seem to do whatever Labour, the opposition, want them to do. You know, it's just politics in this country is screwed at the moment. You know, I'm sure people have heard about all the leaders that have gone. You know, Boris Johnson was ousted by like an internal coup, and the media kind of, you know, stoked the fires of that. I mean, I liked Boris in the beginning, but the whole stuff through lockdown and COVID, he should never have locked the country down. He should have stuck to his principles, and he caved on those principles, and that's basically destroyed his leadership. And then Liz Truss was, you know, she was the choice of the voters of the Conservative Party, but not a lot of the old school British establishment. So that's kind of why she came in. And to be fair, she made a bunch of mistakes around. She moved too fast with budgets. You know, she put out a kind of a bit of a what's the word? Not psychotic, but it was basically she was trying to lower taxes but raise public spending at the same time. And it was like, well, you can't really do that, because you need the taxes to pay for the public spending. So it was a little bit, and that freaked out a lot of like global bond markets, and you know, so that's why the pound kind of dropped in value, because people were worried about the economy and all that kind of stuff. But in this country, traditionally, it's been middle class tended to vote more Conservative, and working class tended to vote more Labour. But the Labour government have gone like off the deep end, as crazy as the Democrats are with all this woke stuff. You know, I've got a friend of mine actually he is actually an elected official for my local council, who is a Labour member of the Labour Party. He's not an MP, but he's just a member of the Labour Party who was like elected locally. And I asked him straight up, because I've been friends with him for years, and I asked him what a woman was. And he said to me, I can't, if you're asking me official, I wouldn't be able to give you an answer, but unofficially, I know exactly what it is.
Wow.
So this is how nuts they are. And you can just watch interviews with Keir Starmer, who's the leader of the party. He's basically, he's dodging these questions left and right. And, you know, they're just as woke as the Democrats are. So, yeah, that's kind of the politics in this country is just messed up.
What a crazy world that's where we are. I still have to, I think it's good. I know some people are like, quit being shocked, no, I disagree with that. It is good to maintain shock, especially because a lot of people who are in that echo chamber don't recognize that shock is what's appropriate. And so it's good for them to see shock, that this is where we're at. When I was at Content House this weekend, you might find this funny. Anthony Cumia watches like a lot of 80s and 90s films, which I completely support. So do I. It was so funny to watch him just walk by and see him on the couch, you know, hanging out, talking about films. And I walked by at one point, or I sat down for a little bit, and we were watching Back to the Future 2. And he starts cracking everybody up, because we're talking about what was happening then. And it's like, we were kind of joking, like, we were promised these hoverboards and we don't have these hoverboards. We were promised
Yeah.
this in the future. And we were talking about what the movie got right and what it didn't get right. Like there was a big hologram, like like a big advertisement on the side of a building. We're like, well, they got that right, but
Yeah,
they didn't
well,
get, they
and
didn't get
also
phones.
the Jaws shark came out and as a hologram came out and bit him, didn't they? They're not quite got there with the holograms, but yeah. So sorry, carry on with.
Right, but they got the big ads right. They got certain things right, but we didn't get the hoverboards. They didn't predict the little handheld mobile phones. They didn't. But at one point we were kind of cracking up because it's like, they promised us hoverboards, but instead we can't define what a woman is. like back to all these these futuristic movies, or these movies that were shot in the 80s that were about the future. Like none of them predicted that we would be at this place in the year 2022 where people are like, yeah, men can get pregnant, and like, I don't even know how to define what a woman is, guys. And like, yeah, kids should cut their boobs off totally if that's what they want to do. 13-year-olds, fine. Like,
Yeah.
sterilizing hormones, cool. Like nobody predicted that we would be here.
Well, 1984, with John Hurt, they had a fairly good.
That's true.
Well, they didn't specify the year, but yeah.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of white pills, minor white pills in the UK at the moment.
Okay, what are they?
So first of all, this PayPal banned a bunch of companies and organisations. Obviously, it's been happening everywhere, but they made the mistake of banning the Free Speech Union, who I am a member of. And if you live in the UK, go join the Free Speech Union. They do a great job pushing back against this woke cancel culture stuff.
Okay.
And that triggered them to start a campaign to basically write to your MPs to put into law, I can't remember which bill it is or whatever, but to say that payment processes in this country, financial institutes cannot discriminate based on political affiliations.
Wow, that's
right?
huge.
And that's picking up a lot of steam at the moment, and it's being discussed in the Houses of Parliament right now, or today it was discussed. So that's picked up a lot of steam, and it's interesting when it's really interesting because I email my local MP must be pissed off with me because I email him all the time with different petitions and things, but mostly around free speech, because that's I think that's the cornerstone of all this other stuff that we really need to focus on. Because if you lose your speech, then they can just keep pushing down and you can't speak out against other things. So
exactly,
that's the cornerstone of all this stuff, in my opinion. But I've emailed my MP about tons of petitions, and he always replies saying, yes, I'll look into it. And he kind of pushes me off with an excuse of, well, I kind of agree with this, I don't agree with that. Anyway, this one, because it was around financial institutes, he came back saying, I fully agree, I'm going to support this change in the Houses of Parliament. That's the first time in like 5 years I've got a positive response back from him.
That's awesome.
So I think that the MPs in this country actually understand that payment processes can go after them.
Yes.
And so that's where the real issue is, once
they
figure out that.
I mean, hopefully they get that. Like, one of the things that frustrates me so much in the past couple of years is realizing how myopic people are, just very short-sighted, and not being able to see that all of these authoritarian policies that you support could bite you in the bum down the road. But they turned against you.
Well, if you in this country in particular, the Conservatives, their popularity has just nosedived over the last 2 months. So everything they've put into law could now potentially be used against them when Labour gets into power.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're freaking out a little bit because the people who just don't think this stuff through. And once I think the Conservatives have had such a comfortable grip on power for so long, now that's they're losing that control. They're trying to react and put in some extra rules so that they want to protect themselves on the way out the door. That's kind of my little bit of a conspiracy theory around this stuff. But so that's a bit of a white pill for me, the fact that this is going through. And also another minor white pill, although this is a really tiny one, is there is another Free Speech Union push to protect freedom of speech, to remove a bunch of language from the law in the UK around hateful speech.
Okay.
And they're basically trying to get rid of the legal but hateful speech language from this online safety bill that's going through the Houses of Parliament. And so what they're trying to do is it's a step in the right direction for free speech, and what they're doing with the online safety bill is it feels like they're actually focusing a little bit more on where it should be aimed at, and that is the protection of children online, not adults.
Yes.
So there was a girl in the UK who killed herself because of a bunch like an online. There was a whole, I can't remember her name or anything, but she sadly took her own life because of online abuse, but she was like 12 or 13 years old, and so the government overreacted, and Nadine Norris, I think her name is Morris, can't remember her name, put in this bill of like, okay, any hateful speech online needs to be the social media companies need to police it, but it was targeted at everybody, including adults. And now they're trying to walk that back a little bit now and say, actually, we're going to focus on controlling speech, putting protections in place for children rather than adults, which, again, I don't know how far that's going to get, but that is a little white pill, and you've got to take them, you've got to take them as they come.
Yes.
Basically, and that's, again, with this, talking about the Musk and the Twitter thing as well. I know a lot of people I think Musk, I've seen lots of conversations about this. Musk buying Twitter, everybody expected it to just become like, oh, freedom of speech overnight. Why can't they just let everybody back on the platform? And as somebody who works with technology, I'm kind of like, you understand he's got like 10 years of code and crap to sift through.
Yes.
Before he can start making any big wide scale changes. I'm sure you could tinker with some of the like admin controls on the back end to open things up a little bit.
The algorithm.
If he's going to revamp the whole platform, and he's brought in a bunch of Tesla developers to look at this stuff, this isn't going to happen overnight. And so I think it's going to take time. So I'm a little bit optimistic about. I'm staying positive until he comes out with like definitive statements of this is what the policy is going to be. I think he's trolling a lot of people online right now, and he's keeping a lot of people off balance. So he can actually work on this stuff in the back.
He's having fun.
He's having fun. And he's just fired a lot of people today, which was interesting as well. So that's been quite interesting watching that.
Learn to code. I'm kidding.
Well, learn to code. What was it? Somebody said something like, not learn to code, learn to farm.
Learn to farm.
So because they're all developers.
Learn to kill your own chickens.
That's the one.
So
they're my white pills at the moment. So they're the things that keep me going.
Ken Johnston asked, and I know some people have answered him, but in case somebody else is just listening and has this question, he goes, it used to be red pill. What's a white pill? So first of all, red pill, I usually have to get clear on what people mean because people use it in so many different ways. But red pill in general means sort of waking up to reality. White pill is hopefulness. It's getting a dose of hopefulness and that things will be okay in the end. I think that's how people generally use white pill, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's positivity. It's being positive about things and not trying to be too negative.
And a lot of times people use white pill in contrast to black pill. They say if you're black pilled, that's after the red pill, and now you've basically become sort of hopeless about the future and where things are headed.
And somebody put something in the chat. So red pill isn't conservative. Red pill isn't a Republican thing. It comes from it's originally from the Matrix, but it's about waking up to the controls of a system around you that you didn't see before. So things like both sides of a government are kind of the same thing. The cathedral that people talk about, understanding there is a deep state within your country, and that within all countries, not just yours. But it's kind of it's looking at the bigger picture a little bit and not just being kind of stuck in that entranced view of. Oh, sorry, Vegas. It was sarcasm. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but sometimes that's true. I see, especially people on the left who aren't as familiar with some of these phrases. Sometimes they'll say, what they think red pill means becoming Republican or something.
Yeah, it's not that at all. No.
Oh, yeah, I don't view it that way at all. It just means like waking up. And you're right. It came from the Matrix. Blue pill is sort of staying asleep. And I've had people. I know people. This is an anecdote, but I know people who've been like, I don't want to be red pilled. Please don't tell me anything else because I would prefer to live with my illusions of how the world works.
Yeah,
And
I,
that's
I
really,
think COVID just red pilled so many people.
yeah,
It really
did.
Yeah.
A lot of progressives who are very, some of the people I know who woke up during COVID were kind of definitely lefty, hippie, progressive types who were skeptical of big pharma and skeptical of corporate power and government government tyranny. And the COVID years woke some of those people up because they could see so clearly how suddenly the left was embracing all these things that it's supposed to stand against. It's like, wait a minute. And that made it clear. I mean, my red pilling, my awakening happened when Trump was elected. But for a lot of people I know now, their red pilling happened during these past 2 COVID policy years.
Yeah. I see. I don't like. I'm not a big fan of the left and right dichotomy.
I agree.
I'm more. I prefer the kind of authoritarian to liberty dichotomy.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can have, and we saw it in the 90s with right-leaning or like say Republican censorship. So like in the 90s, it was all about, well, you can't listen to that rapper, or you can't watch that film because of bad language, or there's excessive violence in Grand Theft Auto, so we need to ban these games and slap labels on them and stuff. And
right,
that was a right authoritarian kind of situation. And now we're in a leftist authoritarian system.
yeah.
And so I don't care whether it's left or right. I'm more about, are they going to be authoritarian and tell me what to do, or is there going to be am I going to be given, liberty to make my own decisions and that kind of thing? So, yeah, I know there's a lot of left and right. Okay, yeah, I might be wrong about some of that stuff.
No, well, it was a lot of conservative institutions that were supporting those bans on different types of music, but this person, Maverick, is right. It was Democrats who Tipper Gore's the one who put a lot of that stuff forward about censorship of music and stuff and video games. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like I was like 9, 10 in the 90s.
Plus, so. You're not here in the US.
No. But I saw it in the UK as well. It was like conservative censorship and stuff.
Yeah. Simon says the difference is conservatives in the 80s never tried to get people fired from their jobs or lose their bank accounts. Yes. Things cancel culture is very different than boycott, like a simple boycott. I know the Republicans sort of conservatives really sort of became known for these boycotts that they would do of different brands or TV shows or things that they felt were detrimental to society. And I have no problem with boycotts. I say, you're voting with your dollar, you're voting with your feet. I won't go there. I won't do this. Right. That's really different than cancel culture, which is it's sort of going the next step and saying, hey, it's not enough for me to vote with my dollar or vote with my feet. I'm going to cut your feet off so nobody can be a patron at your shop.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure I entirely agree with. But I know where you're coming from, where that comment was coming from. But I'm not sure I entirely agree, because I think the two things were different. So people used to stand outside shops and stop people going in, and if that's not affecting someone's livelihood, I don't know what is. There used to be people standing out shops protesting, and some of that stuff happens now. But the big thing that's changed, I think the thing that's changed is the social media aspect, where, I'm sure that those same types of people, and I don't care whether they're conservatives or liberals, the people with those mindsets would go after that if they could. Yeah. I think the technology is available now to allow that kind of censorship to happen. But yeah, I take the point. But I do think that once you're in a mindset where you want to cut someone else off at the knees, it doesn't matter whether you're left or right.
No, it doesn't.
That's what you're going to do. That's where you want to go.
Yeah. Dion has a great quote. Dion, the queen of quotes, has a George Orwell quote. The real division is not between conservatives and revolutionaries, but between authoritarians and libertarians. This is true.
There you go.
Libertarian with a small L. That's my. Teresa's here. Hey, everyone. Light and gay. Good to see you.
So just one final thing for me, and then I didn't think I'd stay on as long as I have. But have you seen this Amnesty? Have you talked about this Amnesty article from the Atlantic?
Yes, I have not talked about it, but I saw it. Let's bring it up. Okay.
I don't have it lined up.
I've got it. Hold on.
Oh, have you? Okay.
because I saw this and I just this. So the Atlantic. Well, here's one prediction. Here's another prediction I made that I think we're starting to see. I think it's pretty obvious to know once you learn about woke, like what their tactics are going to be. And the prediction was that they would eventually start to use inclusive language, like a lot of we's and us when they talk about the COVID years and what we did to one another. And so you can see that front and center in this headline. Somebody asked me when I shared this, is this a real article? Yes, I verified it is not. This is not a spoof. The Atlantic. Thanks, Pirate, for bringing this up. The Atlantic. Here's the headline: Let's declare a pandemic amnesty. And then the subtitle is, We need to forgive one another for what we did and said when we were in the dark about COVID, by Emily Oster.
I'll premise this with a kiss my ass, and I'll forgive you when you come up with a way to give everyone who lost their business back, everybody who took an injection, a way to remove it from their body, and bring people back to life who have suffered because of it. That's then we can talk about forgiveness.
Here's what I'd say. We're not entirely on the same page, mostly.
Okay.
But forgiveness, and this is what I said when I shared it online. What did I say? Usually forgiveness comes comes voluntarily and after an acceptance of responsibility and a sincere apology. They're doing so many things wrong with this headline. Number one, they're doing the shell game. They're being dishonest. They're being manipulative by using that inclusive language of what we did. And when
it's
we
now,
were in the dark, is it we?
Yeah.
Is it we? Because it was us versus them. You used to call us them. You used to call us you guys. You used to call us the unvaccinated or COVID deniers or whatever, all kinds of crazy stuff that you call us. Like, it was us versus them, and now we all are guilty. And by the way, we weren't all in the dark. A lot of people had questions, a lot of scientists had questions, a lot of doctors had questions, and you guys banned those people, repeatedly banned them, censored them, took YouTube channels down, took Twitter accounts down, and did not allow those medical experts to voice any of those concerns. You censored them. And so you purposefully kept us, the powers that be purposefully kept us in the dark. And a lot of you people supported that. You supported them keeping us in the dark. You supported them shutting down the search for truth. That makes me furious that you would now do what I thought you would do on the back end of it, be like, we were in the dark. No, we weren't. A lot of people, let's talk about where COVID came from. They would not allow that conversation. If you're on the left and you don't know this, I mean, here's your red pill. They wouldn't let us talk about it. There were lots of people who were saying, wait a minute, there's a possibility this came from a lab. We should talk about it. They shut that down. And now what do they say? Now they say, oh yeah, well, very likely it did come from a lab. But how could we have known that? We were in the dark. Bullshit.
Well, it's amazingly easy to get scientific consensus when you ban opposing voices.
Yeah.
So, that's when they talk about, well, the science is settled. Well, actually, pal, no, it's not. There's a bunch of people who don't agree with you. They just can't talk about it because you've kicked them from platforms. But I will just say one thing. YouTube is still a bit touchy about some of this stuff. So for protection of your own channel, Keri, I wouldn't be a good mod if I didn't say, just be wary that there's still some stuff you can't talk about on this platform without getting a strike. I'm not saying about the article, but yeah, it's...
Right. I know. I need to be more, I'm not as careful as some. I need to be more careful. Yeah, I just think it's crazy, the level of censorship. And also it's just amazing that people in that echo chamber still don't know. And I know they don't know. And I try to be aware of that and be kind and be sort of remember what it was like when I was in that echo chamber, and instead of being like, how could you be so asleep right now? But it's like, they don't know. They don't even, I've talked to people in real life who are in the echo chamber and they're like, does Twitter really censor people? I'm like, yes. Does YouTube really? I'm like, hello, let me tell you what it's like on the back end of the YouTube channel, right? Like, they have no idea that this happens.
Someone's just posted something in the chat. Razorfist has got an absolutely brilliant video about this. So go and watch that video because it is just fantastic the way how he talks about it. It's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say about this article before you go is that, so first of all, I don't, they're manipulating and they're attempting to minimize what they did by using that language of we were in the dark, we this. That's bullshit. You don't do that if you're seeking an apology and you're seeking amnesty for what you did. You don't do that. The second thing is, as I mentioned, forgiveness and amnesty. It's when it's real, it's voluntary and it's on the part of the wronged party. It's not demanded. And it's not, it's something that happens usually, not always, but usually after an atonement, an acceptance of responsibility, a true, like, I did this wrong thing to you and I am sorry. And that request for grace, and there's no apology in that. There's no, we did this, like, some of us did this. There's none of that. And we're sorry. Yeah. And we're sorry how we treated the unvaccinated. And we're sorry. I even shared that. And I'll tell you, Gary from Neurotic retweeted it. And so more people saw it. And someone replied to me and Gary, and he was like, oh, boo-hoo, you had to wear a mask for a little while. And I'm like, how dare you? How dare you insult and make a mockery, make light of what people went through the past 2 years? As you pointed out, let's just tick it off. People lost their jobs. Some people lost their ability to provide for their family. Some people had to move so they could find a new job to provide for their family because they were discriminated against because they didn't want to put this new experimental shot in their body. Some people were coerced into putting that new experimental thing in their body. Some people lost their small businesses. We saw the biggest transfer of wealth from small businesses to big corporations that we've ever seen. Small businesses went under.
Yep.
And these guys are making light of that, like, oh, boo-hoo, you had to wear masks. No, people lost businesses that had been in their families for generations, or businesses that they had just created themselves with their own sweat and tears. People like Lisa Hansen went to jail. Grandmas like Lisa Hansen went to jail for trying to keep her coffee bar afloat. Yep. She went to jail for that. And you're making light of that. Suicides increased, anxiety increased among teenagers, even among kids. We saw the CDC come in and lower the milestones for speech for toddlers. So here are the developmental milestones for kids. We're going to set them all back by about 6 months.
Yeah.
And we're not going to say why that's happening. And the age at which they develop speech and how big their vocabulary is, all of that got pushed back during these pandemic years. You want to say, oh, boo-hoo, you had to wear some masks?
Well, they have absolutely destroyed an entire generation of children with this stuff. Locking them in their houses. So there's an entire generation of children who are now haven't been able to mentally develop properly. So there's all this stuff that we know about that we haven't seen the impact on society yet. And talking about boo-hoo, like, personally, I had an aunt dying of cancer that I couldn't go and see because of this stuff. So there's stories like that. It wasn't just wearing a mask. The mask was the least of my concerns about things. And the thing is that they don't understand is because the people who kind of have those comments probably, they either supported it fully, so they were fully on board. Well, we all need to make sacrifices for the greater good, that kind of argument, or they live such comfortable lives that they had jobs where they could work from home all the time. This is the thing. I could work from home all the time, but lots of my friends run businesses that were running to the ground. I've got a friend of mine who runs a local pub near me, who she almost went out of business. She had people donating to the pub to keep it open or to keep it running, to get through some of this stuff.
I saw that here. I saw that in LA. People donating to keep their favorite places open.
Yeah, and so these people who could work, who could actually just cruise through and think, oh, I get to work from home for 2 years. Oh, this is fantastic. No, not a care in the world. They're the people now who are saying, well, all you had to do was wear a mask. The fundamental liberty destroyed, the fact that a government managed to lock people down, all this stuff. But the thing why I think these articles are starting to appear now is that I think there's a few things happening that's actually starting to scare some of these people. So first of all, Musk buying Twitter. Okay, that's one thing. But that is a platform that they use to control and to bully people. Second of all, they see this red wave coming in the US, And some of these people are now, I think they're concerned that they might be held accountable for some of the things that they did when their political party was in power. And that's why they're asking for amnesty now. Not that they actually want it. They don't care, I don't think, about what they did to people over the last 2 years. They're now worried that they're going to be held accountable for their actions. And that's why they're saying, oh, can we all be friends, please?
Yeah.
So yeah, that I think there's that's an element. That's why we're starting to see these articles now. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but
yeah, it's pretty disgusting. I mean, how dare you minimize it to that degree of boohoo? You had to wear a mask, and like you said, people couldn't see their dying family members. There's tons of stories in the chat. I can't even highlight. There's too many of them. Here, I'll just put Dion's up. My mom owns a beauty shop in California. She barely hung on. Yeah, they destroyed so many people. They took something bad, the virus, and they magnified its evil impact by I can't put a number on it. I can't quantify it. Like, they just made things so astronomically awful for people. So how dare they?
If you're taking your political strategy from a Chinese communist government, then there's something wrong there. That should have been, why the hell are we using the same strategy as the CCP? That should have made everybody concerned.
What are we doing? What are we doing? I have to say hello. Teresa's, I see a filing cabinet, and I see him too. Frank Pellegrino is here, guys. Give it up for the filing cabinet. Thank you for the super chat, showing some support to my Nita. Thank you, Frank. You guys, I've talked about Chrissy Mayer's Content House and Frank, who they put it all together. And anyway, he's here in the chat. I just want to say in front of everyone, thank you guys for being excellent human beings and working so hard. And anyway, thanks for the support. Thanks for coming over. Also to Big Raj, where'd that go? I need your help, Mod. I need your help, Pirate. There it is. Super sticker. Thank you, sir. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening to me rant about this and still sticking around. It just makes me upset. However, this is where we disagree, Pirate. If there were serious atonement, if there were serious, like if I felt that sincerely that people who participated in this the past 2 years and supported it, whether they be politicians or the media or everyday people that if I felt that they sincerely regretted it and learned from it and were asking for forgiveness, I would give it immediately. Like, I would. That's just the way I'm built. And so but it has to be that sincere request and that sincere acknowledgement and atonement of, like, I did this wrong thing and I deeply regret it. Will you forgive me? Without hesitation. But there's none of that. There's none of that.
Well, I think it depends on which group of people you're talking about, right? So individual people who didn't know any better or were just following the crowd. And I know this is a really, I understand where you're coming from, but there are some people who orchestrated and pushed this. And there were others who just kind of got caught up in the whirlwind and were, some of them were just scared into different things. So I think there are some genuine people who in your life who, forgiveness, I can understand that. But politicians who push these policies, media who push this stuff, big tech who block people from discussing things, some people are more culpable than others.
Yeah.
And I think the larger picture is some of the stuff they did is unforgivable. Whereas common people on your day-to-day life, fair enough. I understand that. But yeah, there are some people who are beyond forgiveness in my view.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat, it scrolled by, so I didn't select it out, but somebody said, I want reparations. I actually was thinking of this the other day, how funny this would be if all the unvaccinated start pushing for reparations. Anyone affected by COVID policy at all, whether you lost a small business, it impacted you getting to see a loved one, in the hospital, or however impacted you, like COVID reparations, that would bankrupt them.
It's such a, I understand that I understand. Yeah. I think it's one of these, like, the reparations for slavery kind of arguments. It's too complicated to understand.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
maybe, I don't know.
reparations, I'm not entirely opposed to them if the group of people that the government is making that financial amends to is still living. What I'm opposed to is when it's like many generations down the line, and it's like, oh, well, because then you can go back and you can find any group and try to trace it back. But like when the government did reparations, for example, for Japanese internment, I think I'm pretty sure I've thought about it, and I don't think I oppose that. I think they're trying to make amends, and they're doing so financially to these people who are still alive, who they wronged.
But they're using other people's money to do it, which is, they're using tax collectors' money to do it. So I mean, there's a whole
That's true.
economic thing. I would rather all the people who were wrong through this don't pay taxes for the next 10 years. That's a way to
That's a way to do
provide.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it would also.
I would rather we tax the politicians, specifically the reparations tax. It's just the politicians. They pay it.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, there was a bot in the chat. I just time it out. There we go.
Speaking of bots in the chat, I missed this one. Chrissy Mayer's boobs is here. Boobs are here. We refuse to grant amnesty to Chrissy and Frank for imprisoning us. Stupid. This account on Twitter is so funny. The boobs, they're pretty funny. And I saw somebody the other day. It was a libertarian podcast, Top Lobster. He was like, "How did Chrissy Mayer's boobs have more followers than me?"
I think it's Chrissy Mayer's alter ego. I think that's who it is.
I met the social media manager of the boobs, and it was not Chrissy. But this
Speaking of
person just
Chrissy.
represents them. Just represents them, that's all. Oh, Chrissy! Thank you for the super chat. The higher up the chain you go, the more they need to do to make it up to us. Everyday people that fell for the psyop are victims of the system, and we need to show them grace. Yes, I would agree with that.
She phrased it a lot better than I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, she phrased it that, and I absolutely agree with that. It's like if somebody in my everyday life came to me and said I was so wrong about this, and I have seen some people change on some things. I did see someone at the very beginning of the COVID policy, and maybe you saw some of this too, Chrissy. There was a comedian I saw who was basically saying, it was inappropriate to talk about the just the psychology of groups and how they get on board with things like, here, just take this. The government saying like, well, we want to make sure that you take the shot, and then we want to make sure that you don't go to work, and we want to make sure you don't open your business, and we want to make sure you get on the boxcar, and we want to make sure, just that psychology of people complying with an authoritarian dictate, like from the government. And this comedian was sort of like, that's inappropriate to make that comparison or to bring that bit of history up in relation to this. And I'm like, and my thinking at the time was like, no, it's not, because I'm talking about the psychology of groups and how you can kind of escalate things and get them to comply with more and more and more of an invasion of privacy and restriction of their rights. That's what that's about. And over the course of those 2 years, I saw that person start to use the same comparison and see how it was valid. And so I have seen some people like change on it. And if somebody were to come to me and say I was wrong to support mandates and I was wrong, would you forgive me? Yes.
Well, that's what you've just said there is similar to what Gina Carano got booted from Twitter for. Oh no, she got fired from Disney for saying something similar. Making that comparison. And what Gina was basically saying was, well, this is discriminating against a bunch of people is how this stuff starts. It's not how it finishes. It's how it starts.
It's how it starts.
And
dehumanizing.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what a lot of people did. So yeah.
Yeah, and people also don't seem to get that. It's not you're not comparing apples to oranges. You're not saying this is just like this. You're saying the psychology of mobs is similar. Like, we don't want to go down this path. Not saying this is going to come to this outcome. It's just, this is always a bad path for people to comply with government overreach into, restriction of individual rights. And they think you're saying this is just like the Holocaust. It's like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. Like, you're not even listening.
But trying to force someone to do something against their will, especially medical, you know, there is a direct comparison when it comes to like medical procedures, which I don't want to dive into too much, but you know that there are valid comparisons there, but that's not how this stuff ends. But yeah, you know, trying to force somebody else to do something to their own body is just wrong on so many levels, and so many people supported it. It's like you know, Douglas Murray's book, The Madness of Crowds. You know, there is an insanity that comes along with groupthink, and
Yeah. One last thing before I take the super chat down. Yeah, 16-bit says, all hell Chrissy. In case you're still around, I already thanked Frank. I want to thank you. It was so much fun being a part of Chrissy Mare's Content House this week, and on the Compound Media channel. I assume at some point it's going to be up on Chrissy's channel. They gave her they gave her a week-long strike right before going out there, which seems like the timing was on purpose. So she ended up doing it on Rumble and on the Compound Media site. That's where you can find it. And anyway, thank you. I had so much fun. I appreciate you bringing so many different people together to hang out and have silly conversations, fun conversations, interesting conversations, connection. She says, yes, we all could have fought harder, but remember, it could be worse right now. Those of us who pushed back made a huge impact. The entire world is looking for us to fight. Yeah. And paid a price for it too. I mean, I'm not sure the entirety of Chrissy's price, but I know that I've seen a lot of the attacks that she gets on social media, and they are not kind. It is not kind. People calling you all sorts of things.
Yeah, it sucks what happened to Chrissy's channel. I mean, like many people have pointed out, the timing was highly suspect.
Oh yeah.
Just like Crowder's ban or Crowder's strike on the run up to a certain event that's going to happen soon.
Yeah.
Highly suspect.
Everyone had a different opinion on what it is. I just think sometimes if you have like enemies who don't like the fact that you speak for free speech and stuff like that, sometimes they'll go and try to mass report you or something before a big event. Maybe it was YouTube them doing it purposefully themselves. Who knows? There's so many things that it could be, but the timing was like, come on, man. Plus, here's the biggest, again, to go back to double standards. The footage that they gave her the strike for, if anybody doesn't know this, it was from a video. They gave her the strike now in the fall, in October. It was from a video from July of her covering a news event using the very same news footage that was up on all these other authoritative sources channels on YouTube. So CNN, NBC, CBS, I don't know, you name it. They showed it. Inside Edition. They showed this same clip. It was of some girls fighting in a French fry shop and attacking the employees. Two of the employees ended up in the hospital. And it was her showing that news footage and providing commentary on it. The very same thing that all these authoritative sources did. YouTube took it down and said it was promoting violence.
Yeah, it's insane. I actually think now that it's with the YouTube stuff, I think it's incompetence to some degree that they don't even understand. I don't even think they understand the monster they've created with this stuff. Because, like Chrissy gets a strike for that video, whereas, like you say, a lot of other people don't. I think it's such a complicated system that they've just kind of lost control of it. But yeah, it does seem to affect certain types of content creators more than others. So.
Oh yeah, they have completely different, and they're always changing their algorithm, and they rolled out this authoritative sources thing sometime in the past 2 years, where I that's one of of all of their algorithm changes, it's one of my least favorite changes, because now when you try to find something, it's so hard to find it. Even if you know the name of the content creator and some of the names of the video, the words in the video title, sometimes they will bury it to page 6 of search results, where you have to comb through all of the CNN and NBC crap, MSNBC and whatever, until you find what you're looking for. It's like, did you mean to look for this clip on CNN? No, that's not what I'm looking for. Like, I have the name of the channel here in the search bar. You're still not giving it to me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there does seem to be some kind of background classification of content creators with different thresholds. So there'll be like a bunch of these content creators, they get a flag to say we agree with them, so they can get away with doing stuff, or they're paying us like CNN. And then there are other people who like don't get that check mark. It's like an unofficial kind of, validation status on the back end. And if you don't have that check mark, then you get flagged for everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I have no evidence that they do this, but I guarantee they do this. I would bet my house that they do this. We know they do this on Facebook, because that did leak, that they had different lists of people that they were what did they call it, down throttling their posts. And it was like a hit list of all these different content creators on Facebook, and it leaked, where they were doing everything they could to make sure the posts got seen by fewer and fewer people. And like Candace Owens was on that list, and Cernovich, and I forget who else, but it was a long list of people. You know that they all do this. You know Twitter does this. Like, so that's going to be interesting, as you said, as Musk has time to sort out what all the code is and like what's happening there, and figure out how to change some of those things. It's not like he can walk in and there's one button that's like make things equal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that, like I said before, that I'm seeing people freak out about, oh, he's partnering with these people and talking to these people, and they just expect him to, now he owns it, to just literally let's just drop all the bad stuff out of the code and just keep the good stuff. It's like, if anyone's done any kind of development work, that it just does not happen like that. And when you go into like the AI patterns detections and stuff that they've got built into it, it'll take a long time to unpick all this stuff. So yeah, I think we'll get there, but I'm holding my judgment for him until I see what definitive statements that he makes. So it's we'll see. Maybe he will carry on doing what he's doing, and it'll be just as bad as it was. But I mean, let's put it this way: it can't get any worse, in my view.
Do you know one of the weird things that they do on Twitter that I have a suspicion about, that I never hear anyone talking about? Can I tell you this? I've never heard anyone talk about this, but this is what I think. They do this weird thing with some of the top left-leaning accounts, like Barack Obama's Twitter account, where from your perspective, from like, for example, Barack Obama follows me, and I've seen a ton of other people online make a big deal about Barack Obama following them, and a few other leftists as well. This person follows me. Oh my gosh, me. Barack Obama. I don't think Barack Obama follows that many accounts. I think that they, on Twitter's back end, for some of these big left accounts, they make it look like these big figures are following you, so you get all excited and tweet about it. And then you look at his follow list and it's small, and you're like, I'm one of the small number of people that he's following. But it's not true. They actually have it appear to many, many people that he's following them. So they get excited and tweet about it. And then there's excitement about, you feel special that this figure is following you. And that's why have you ever seen that? I've seen it with, I'm trying to remember the other
Not
figure
really.
I saw that.
I mean,
for.
my Twitter account is, I don't really use it too much, but I've not seen that, but I can understand that. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I've not seen it myself. But did you see, actually, the White House got fact-checked the other day?
No.
They got fact-checked on Twitter and then deleted the tweet.
What? No, what? Thank you for being on today to tell me about this stuff. What happened?
I can't remember. It was something about, I think it was about something to do with state pensions or OAPs getting paid more money now, but than they used to from some state pensions. I can't remember exactly the details, but basically inflation caused the difference. And they got fact-checked with one of those little banners under the tweet. And then they took it down.
Wow. Okay, I'm looking this up right now.
It was glorious. It was glorious to see.
And then Luke We Are Change says that if you post about the fact that they got fact checked, then you'll get fact checked. It's like fact check inception.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They'll fact check you.
Fact check the fact checkers.
Exactly. So silly. Greg the Baritone says, just as long as nobody bans Chrissy Mayer's boobs. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. The Ginger Ninja. I got to meet this fella in Orlando, and it was so lovely. He was at Chrissy Mayer's show at the Improv, and then saw him again at the Geeks and Gamers meetup. And he says, I want that hat. I got this hat from one of the Friday Night Tights meetups. Gary was giving away at the meetup. I don't know if you can buy them on his site, but I'm assuming you can. So go there. It says Nerdrotic, and then it says go woke, go broke. And I get so many compliments on this hat in Texas, man. Let me tell you.
Just looks like an Oakland Raiders hat.
It's people, I didn't know until I started wearing this. People were saying that I've gotten several comments about this now, that I need to bend the brim. Why? I like it like this. Why do I have to bend it? Is that a thing with the guys who wear baseball caps?
I think a lot of people do bend them, yeah, but
Okay, well,
you don't
well,
have
I'm
to.
not going to. Okay, plug what you're doing one more time before you leave, Pirate, before we take off.
Oh, okay, yeah. So just as I said before, starting a new podcast called Modcast, where I'm going to start interviewing some moderators from some of the other channels that I'm sure a lot of people here follow. So yeah, I've got an interview planned for Tuesday. I'm not going to say who it is yet because it might change. And so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm going to try it out and see if anyone's interested in hearing about moderators.
There we go.
I'll put the channel link in the chat as well.
So you know who you should have be the mod for Modcast? Chrissy Mare's boobs. Why not?
Could do, yeah.
The boobs are here in the chat. You could try and work it out with them.
See if we can bring on a different content creator to do it. Yeah, that'd be extremely complicated.
Yeah. I'd get in there and I would accidentally mute everything again, like I did at Content House.
Yeah.
Frank, thank you again. You guys hanging out today. Frank says only real ass knitters keep their rims flat. We see you. Okay, is that what it is? Well, I'm real ass. There we go. Thank you, sir. What else? I had some other things, but I think we should wrap it up. I'm gonna end with this. Have a happy Friday. Oh, it is Friday. That's right. Go watch Friday Night Tights coming up soon. Tomorrow, if you're in, I'll plug it one more time. If you're in the Fort Worth or Dallas area, my husband has a show with his full band. He's going to be at the Ridgely Theater at 8:00. And they have a couple of different rooms there. He's in one of I think it's called the lounge room. But we hope you come out. I'll be there. I'd love to meet you if you can come, and we'll just have a fun night of music. That's tomorrow night at 8:00 at the Ridgely Theater.
You should live stream some of it.
I should get better at doing the live streams. Maybe on my channel, do you think?
You could use your phone, I guess.
Okay.
But
I'll try that. And then Monday, I'm going to be back for Kerfefe break with a real ass knitter. Neil James from Blocked Magazine is going to be here to talk about all the latest battles in the knitting wars. Which
a fellow Englishman.
There's some crazy stuff happening in the SJW knitting world right now. So he's going to give me the skinny. Some of you guys in the chat already know about all this drama, but we're going to share it with the people who really just are in disbelief that this kind of cancellation and stuff happens in the knitting world. He's going to give me an update and all that. That's Monday. Tuesday, I'm going to be on Politically Incorrect Knitters. And then also that night, I'm doing an election night party on Comics Division show. So come hang out if you want to bring your favorite beverage. I'll have a sparkling ass water and we'll have a fun election night show. So that's
Is that a brand? Sparkling ass water?
Should be a brand.
Should be. Well, sounds like a fun-packed week.
It will be. You come and hang out with us on. Well, it'll be very late for you, but if you're up, come and hang out.
Comics Division streams at like 3 a.m. my time.
Oh,
2 a.m. Yeah, it's too late, really.
Yeah. To make that show, you have to stay up too late. Pirate, it's been such a joy having you on camera today. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. And chat's been nice to me today. I don't know what's going on.
Chat's been very kind. Thank you, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Okay, gonna roll this ad. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you to today's sponsor, the Church on the Square of Georgetown, Texas, which happens to be my church. My church is no longer allowed to advertise on Facebook, which is unfortunate because that's how I and a lot of other church members originally found them. They've been told that they violate community standards. There's no details there of what that means, but you guys know the score. Anyway, since they're not allowed to advertise, I'm here to give them a plug. You can find them online at thechurchonthesquare.org. You can also find videos of all the sermons and some other kinds of content
on their YouTube page at Church on the Square. You can also join us. If you happen to be in the Georgetown, Texas area, we meet every Sunday at Ken's Guitars, that's Kenz, Ken's Guitars, right on the Georgetown Square. We meet outside, right on the square. Sometimes, if the weather's nice, you might find us there. You might find us outside in front of Ken's. But if you're local, I hope to see you. Thank you.